Greetings everyone, I'm Maria Cozette. Thanks for tuning in. Today's guest is a very talented and accomplished writer, so please stay tuned for that interview. And of course, all the other segments that we have where we spotlight a legend and know the greats, and spotlight a nonprofit organization in a segment called The Art of Giving. For any further information about the show, you can always visit mariacozette.com, check out the archive episodes on the YouTube channel, and stay with us for a fantastic show. You're back and you're watching the Maria Cozette Show, where the left brain meets the right. Super excited to have this guest with me today, Dean Hartwell. He's a City of Glendale employee and a very talented writer. Welcome.
Thank you, Maria. Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. So before I pick your brain, so to speak, and talk about all the amazing creative things that you do, first tell me about your professional and educational background.
Sure. Went to school, kindergarten, grade school, high school. It's all good stuff. I was excited to go to college because I could pick a major. I chose political science. Very interesting. I loved politics. I thought I was going to get into political campaigns and make that a career. Well, it didn't quite happen. I kind of got soured on politics too much for that. And more importantly, I had trouble finding a job with a bachelor's degree in political science.
I see.
So I went to graduate school. I picked a subject that would help me get a job, and that was public administration. In fact, it helped me get the job I currently have at the City of Glendale.
Wonderful.
And after working for a number of years for the city, I decided on my own time to try something different. I applied to and got accepted to go to law school. Really enjoyed it. Very cool. Really enjoyed reading the cases, thinking of arguments I would make in class, debating the professors, debating classmates. I had so much fun learning about law. It was a pleasure. And I got a degree in law and enjoy just using it whenever I can.
Right. No, that's really awesome. Actually, the majority of students, because you mentioned political science as your bachelor's, mine was sociology. I never ended up using it. But at the time, I don't know whether it has to do with growth or not, or who you turn into as far as from a professional standpoint, you never end up using your bachelor's degree. And that happens with the majority of students, but it's good knowledge anyway. Yeah, so long as you enjoy the process. So when did your love for writing develop?
I always liked to write in school. A lot of times I'm doing something else, right? I'm at my job or I'm playing in sports or something all throughout my life, and I've got this idea in my head and it won't go away. I don't have a pen or anything. I don't have a dictaphone, but I know I've got something to say, and I just got to find my time, that balance, a quiet time where I can write it out. I've got thoughts I want to convert into something, make some use out of it. So it goes back a long ways, my writing, definitely.
Nice. And so the metaphors you've used in writing the autobiography, you know, how did the conceptualization process look like with that book?
Daydreaming about the days when I played baseball every day. When I was a kid, it was such a great time. I remember the great games and the fun things that happened, but I'll tell you, Maria, the things I learned the most were about the losses. Some of these losses were tough to take, but I learned from it. It was one game, in fact, it's almost 39 years to the day I played it, and I remember we were down 4-1 in baseball. I got up to bat, I slammed a double, and we had a rally going. We scored a couple runs to make it 4-3. But I won't forget, one of our batters hit a ground ball, and this image keeps playing in my mind. And half the time, my teammate interferes with the second baseman making the play, and half the time, he gets out of the way of the second baseman. And in my mind, I don't know which memory is correct. But it was heartbreaking because our player was called out. It not only cost us the game, it cost us a chance to go to the playoffs.
Oh, wow.
It's tough, but I remember, you know, the umpire has a tough job, and I mean, I probably cursed the umpire for many years over that because it was such a tough loss. But the umpires have a tough job to do, and eventually I learned to respect that. It's not easy to make the call right on the spot.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times any loss Metaphorically speaking, this is a game, but just in life, it makes us reflect a little more, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you found that to be true?
I've definitely found it to be true.
Yeah, me too. So we're on the same page when it
Okay.
comes to that. So you've done quite a bit of work in disputing myths, which is very interesting. Discuss your inspiration and research into the JFK shooting and 9/11.
Sure. For a long time, I had just heard about John Kennedy, and he sounded like an interesting president. Obviously, I don't remember him, but I would ask my parents about him, and they would share what they remember of him, and what happened to him. And they would say, well, he was shot. And I say, well, who shot him? And they'd say, well, it was Oswald. And kind of like believing in Santa Claus.
All right.
I believed that until I saw an image. It's called the Zapruder film. And it's a film of the president, JFK, and the shooting. And I noticed that I had read that Oswald was said to have been behind the president. And yet, in the film, in the Zapruder film, the president's traveling in a motorcade. He's shot and his head snaps backward. And I thought, I'm not an expert on physics, but that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Something's
right.
wrong here.
Yeah.
That something is wrong with this picture, literally. And for that, and that was, probably 37 years ago, I started reading about JFK, and I've read hundreds and hundreds of books. But even after reading these books, because there's so many different theories, so many different takes on things, I could only distill a handful of facts about it, but eventually have concluded that Oswald did not shoot anybody.
Interesting. And so you outlined that in the book.
I've outlined it. One of my books talks about that in quite detail, that Oswald, in fact, was framed for what happened.
Interesting.
And,
Very.
I think, people are innocent unless they're proven guilty, and I don't think the guy was really given a chance.
Right. And so what about 9/11?
Again, with 9/11, I believe the official story that we were given about 19 hijackers and bin Laden and so on and so forth. And eventually, I thought, why don't I look into this? This doesn't quite make sense to me. And I again have read probably hundreds of books on it, and have distilled a handful of facts, and have found one reliable fact that two of the airplanes said to have been used in the events of 9/11 never took off that day.
Right.
And I've wondered if the planes never took off, what really happened. So I put together my own story of what happened. I've got a timeline in one of my books called Was 9/11 a Movie? ? And I've also proposed a sort of counter-mythology, a way of explaining how certain people were presented to us as heroes. You might have heard of Todd Beamer, for example.
Right.
Let's roll. Well, I suggested that things didn't quite work out or happened that way. And I say what more likely happened. And to me, it's like building something. I don't build bicycles or models. I don't have that kind of talent. But I build a narrative. And day by day, and this is what I've been doing probably since '05, slowly but surely building a model, and people can see it on my website, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
DeanHartwell.com.
Yes. And so we're definitely going to talk about your website and all the articles that you published. But with regards to what you just mentioned, I love that you have such an intuitive spirit and take it upon yourself to provide your own interpretation of these monumental moments in American history. And I think that's all about that's what creative writing is all about, providing your own interpretation. Beautiful. So let's talk about DeanHartwell.com and the articles you publish via your blog. What kind of topics do you cover there?
9/11 is a big topic.
Right.
Always suggesting ideas, coming out with new blogs, and inviting people to participate, to respond. I love a good conversation or a good exchange with people.
Yeah.
Always happy to have that. I've written a lot about sports, not really my childhood events, but about athletic events in national or professional sports, Super Bowls, World Series, experiences I have attending games, watching games.
Nice.
Because it just has an impact on me. So sports is a big thing as well. And also I've written about some people, a couple of politicians that I've met, a couple of candidates for president who lost, who I had a good time contacting and interviewing.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Finding out why it is they lost.
Yeah.
Which might be more interesting than interviewing the candidates who won.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because we were just mentioning that. Yeah. And as far as sports is concerned, I must ask you, do you like football?
Oh, yes.
Super Bowl you mentioned. Do you like college or NFL?
NFL.
Really? Okay. Because I'm a college football
college
person.
fans. Okay.
I just feel like they play with a lot more genuine passion, and with no disrespect to NFL players, but because, college players aren't getting paid,
Right.
they're just super passionate. And then the age, that's just, I don't know, something about it. It's a faster game too. I don't know. But in general, football is just awesome.
It is awesome. I went to a college that didn't have a football team. Maybe that's...
Oh, really? Okay, then
That might
that's
be it.
probably why. But nevertheless, yeah, I feel like football is such a beautiful sport. It's almost like chess, so I really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the publishing process. What is it? What does it entail?
Publishing process is probably more important than the process of writing itself.
Okay.
You can write the greatest book in the world, I believe, but if you don't find a way to publish it and market it, it's not going to make much of a difference.
Right.
So I use the publishing process to get people's attention, and I think the two most important things in publishing are choosing an attractive cover, or arranging a cover, which I'm able to do with the process I use, and selection of a title.
Yeah.
Now the title, I've gone around at least 100 times on some books on picking a title. And arranging the words just right on the cover, things like that. I work with Amazon, Kindle Direct Publishing.
Nice.
And they've made it very easy. You submit a PDF and they'll give you a proof of a book. You actually see your book, what it would look like. They'll bind it.
Right.
They put those pages together. They'll have that the spine, and they'll arrange it just the way you want on the spine, the title of the book, your name.
That's amazing.
Things like that.
I love it.
Totally awesome. I love the process.
Yeah.
I've come up with several different covers. In fact, sometimes I put them out there and suggest them, or ask my friends which covers they like the best, and I take their votes on that. You've got to get the attention, because this is a book world where you don't go up to people and show them the book much. They're going to the internet, they're going
Right.
to Amazon, they're going to whatever.
Right.
And they need something, number one, that will catch their eye, and that a good cover will do that. And number two, a good title will get their attention and make them want to read it.
Right.
You don't have to spill out the whole story, but you got to give them just enough to get them hooked.
Yeah. And no matter what people say, they do judge a book by its cover, so.
I judge a book by its cover.
Yeah,
Of course I do.
Yeah, it's just inherently true. And so our show is all about knowledge and creativity. So thank you for that bit of knowledge. To all you aspiring authors, you can always go to Amazon to help you in your publishing journey for your books. So in working for the city of Glendale for 24 years, quite an accomplishment, what have you learned about how your creativity plays a role in your everyday line of work?
I've approached things rather slowly. My parents were both computer programmers, so I'm looking for ways to look at a program or something that we do and debug it.
Right.
Find something that's wrong with it, and very slowly go over it and envision a way that it's going to look better or make a difference for people. I've done that recently. It takes time. I mean, you've got ideas, you want to fix things, you want to take initiative.
Right.
On the one hand, on the other hand, it takes time away from other things you have to do. But I think that's one of my jobs, even though it's not exactly written into my job description. I try to solve problems, and not just with computers. I talk to people on the phone all day long. I talk to people, most of whom were upset because they didn't have their trash picked up, or we didn't do something we were supposed to do. And I've just adopted different tones of voice until I find one that seems to strike a chord.
Right.
I've learned to talk slowly. I've learned to apologize and say, I'm sorry your trash wasn't picked up. That seems to ring a bell with people. They seem to like that. They slow down their frustration just a little bit more. They're willing to engage and have a conversation. So little things like that are things also that I do try to fix.
Yeah, you're empathetic, you're patient. Yeah, and as I was mentioning to you in our conversation earlier, it takes creativity to solve problems, trials and errors, coming up with new ways to solve problems. So yeah, absolutely, I see that. And so this last question that I ask all of my guests is, why do you think it's important for a professional to have a creative outlet and exercise both sides of the brain?
if I only used one side of my brain, I would always wonder, could I have done more?
Well said. Yeah, well said.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, for giving us your knowledge and sharing your creativity. Truly valuable. And of course, please stay with us for more of the Maria Cozette Show. And to find out anything more about Dean Hartwell, visit deanhartwell.com. Stay with us. Know the Greats, where we spotlight a legend. An adventurer and intellectual, Mark Twain is best known for his classic American novels, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Samuel Clemens was born in 1835 and adopted the pen name Mark Twain while writing grand tales about the American soul with wit, buoyancy, and a sharp eye for the truth. The pen name Mark Twain is steamboat slang for 12 feet of water. Twain was also a riverboat pilot, journalist, lecturer, entrepreneur, and inventor. He grew up in a tiny Missouri village among 5 other siblings. Legend has it that Twain never saw his father smile, and by contrast, his mother was a fun-loving storyteller. At the age of 4, his family moved to a little town called Hannibal, where most of his fictional tales were inspired. In 1861, Twain headed to California and became a reporter where he churned out news stories, editorials, and sketches. He became one of the best storytellers in the West with a distinctive narrative style. Finally, at the age of 34, this handsome, red-haired, egocentric journalist became one of the most famous and revered writers in America. And I quote, "The 2 most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why." The Art of Giving, where we spotlight a charitable venture. Reading Partners of Los Angeles became a part of the county's educational landscape in 2008. The program offers one-on-one tutoring that empowers students by providing individualized personal attention. Nearly 25% of children in LA live in poverty, and only 15% of 4th graders from low-income families can read at grade-level proficiency, putting them at significantly higher risks of dropping out of high school and thus continuing the cycle of poverty. Reading Partners believes that all children deserve the opportunity to succeed. By partnering with community members and leaders, organizations, corporations, and local school districts, the program is working towards a path where every child has a promising future as a lifelong learner. Thus far, Reading Partners has served 777 students, of which 75% are economically disadvantaged. Gold Standard research found Reading Partners program had a positive and statistically significant impact on student reading proficiency, leading to acceptance into the Institute of Education Sciences. In the 2017 Library of Congress Literacy Awards, 15 organizations were honored, including Reading Partners, for outstanding work in the field of literacy and implementation of best practices in literacy promotion. Please find out more at readingpartners.org. That's a wrap for the Maria Cozette Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Much love to my guest today, Dean Hartwell. You're such an amazingly well-rounded person. It was such a pleasure to meet you and talk about your experiences in writing. And of course, for you guys to check him out, please visit deanhartwell.com. And of course, everyday updates are up on Facebook for the Maria Cozette Show. Like us and follow us on Instagram. And everybody out there, always remember to stay creative. I'm out.